If you've ever worked alone at night, you probably know how different the world feels after midnight. Buildings sound alive in ways they never do during the day. Hallways feel longer, shadows feel heavier, and even small noises seem important. Sometimes, when you're alone long enough, you start noticing things that don't quite make sense. This story was sent to me by someone who worked the night shift as a janitor inside an office building in Ohio. According to him, everything you're about to hear happened during his first week on the job, and after that night, he never returned. My name is Daniel, and 2 years ago I took a night janitor job because I needed money quickly. It wasn't supposed to be anything unusual, just cleaning offices after everyone went home. The building was called Riverside Corporate Center, a 6-floor office building filled with small businesses, insurance agencies, and law firms. My shift started at 11 at night and ended at 7 in the morning. During the interview, the manager told me something that felt strange at the time. He said I would probably never see anyone else during my shift. I remember thinking that sounded perfect. No coworkers, no distractions, just quiet work and steady pay. The first 2 nights were completely normal, almost boring. The building felt empty but peaceful. Elevators hummed softly. Air vents whispered constantly, and the smell of cleaning chemicals slowly replaced the daytime scent of coffee and perfume. I listened to podcasts while I worked and finished each floor without thinking much about anything. Nothing felt wrong until Wednesday night. Around 1:30 in the morning, I reached the 4th floor. The moment the elevator doors opened, I noticed the lights were already on. Every other night, each floor had been completely dark until I turned the lights on myself. I assumed someone must have forgotten to switch them off earlier. As I stepped into the hallway, I heard footsteps somewhere in the distance. Slow footsteps. Not running, not hurried, just steady walking. I stopped immediately and listened. The sound echoed faintly, like someone walking at the far end of the corridor. My first thought was that maybe security was doing rounds, although I had never seen security before. "Hello?" I called out. The footsteps stopped instantly. The silence that followed felt heavier than the noise itself. I waited for someone to answer, but nothing happened. After a few seconds, I laughed nervously at myself and continued working. Old buildings made sounds. Pipes expanded. Floors shifted. That had to be it. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was there. As I cleaned the offices one by one, I noticed something else. One of the office doors near the end of the hallway was slightly open. I clearly remembered all office doors being closed when I started my shift. I pushed the door open gently. The office lights were off, but moonlight from the window illuminated the room just enough for me to see the desks. Everything looked normal except for one chair positioned away from the desk, facing the doorway. It felt like someone had been sitting there, watching the entrance. I stood there longer than I should have, waiting for movement that never came. Eventually, I shrugged it off and turned on the lights to finish cleaning. When I returned 10 minutes later with the trash bag, the chair was pushed back under the desk. I froze. I knew I hadn't touched it. I told myself I must have remembered wrong. Night shifts mess with your head. That explanation felt easier than accepting anything else. The rest of the 4th floor felt uncomfortable, but nothing else happened. By 3 in the morning, I moved down to the 3rd floor and tried to forget about it. The next night started normally again. Quiet building, empty halls, same routine. Around 2 in the morning, while cleaning a conference room on the 2nd floor, I heard the elevator arrive. The sound echoed clearly through the hallway. I checked my phone. No one should have been there at that hour. Curious. I stepped into the hallway, just in time to see the elevator doors closing again. No one stepped out. I walked over and pressed the call button. The elevator returned immediately. When the doors opened, it was empty. But the floor indicator above the door changed by itself. It moved from 2 to 4. Someone had selected the 4th floor. A cold feeling ran through my chest. I stood there staring at the panel, trying to understand how that was possible. Maybe a malfunction. Old elevators glitch all the time. Still, I didn't take it. I used the stairs instead. When I reached the fourth floor landing, the hallway lights flickered once before stabilizing. The air felt colder than the rest of the building. I could hear something faint again. Footsteps, this time closer. Slow pacing back and forth somewhere beyond the corner. My heart started pounding as I walked forward. The sound stopped again the moment I entered the hallway. Every office door was closed. Everything looked completely normal, except one thing. At the far end of the corridor stood a figure, just a silhouette. Too dark to see clearly. Someone standing perfectly still. I assumed it had to be security and felt relieved for a second. "Hey!" I called out. Didn't know anyone else was here. The figure didn't respond. It didn't move. I took a few steps closer. That's when the hallway lights flickered again, only for a second. But when the lights came back on, the hallway was empty. There was nowhere the person could have gone. No doors had opened. No footsteps echoed away. Just an empty corridor stretching endlessly under fluorescent lights. I told myself I was imagining things. Lack of sleep, stress, anything logical. But from that moment on, I felt watched constantly. Every reflective surface made me uneasy. Every corner felt occupied even when it wasn't. Around 4:30 in the morning, while vacuuming near the elevators, I heard breathing behind me. Not loud, just close enough to feel real. I turned around instantly. No one was there, but the elevator call button lit up by itself. The doors opened slowly with a mechanical hum. Inside, the lights flickered repeatedly, like something was interfering with them. And then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Wet footprints covered the elevator floor. Bare footprints, leading out, toward me. They stopped right where I was standing. I backed away slowly, unable to look away. The doors closed on their own, and the elevator moved upward. The floor indicator stopped at 6. The top floor, a level that was supposed to be permanently closed for renovation. I didn't want to go up there. Every instinct told me to leave the building immediately. But curiosity, or maybe disbelief, pushed me toward the stairs again. The 6th floor door was locked normally, but that night it was slightly open. Cold air drifted through the gap. Inside, the floor was dark and unfinished. Plastic sheets covered furniture, and dust coated everything. My flashlight beam shook as I stepped forward. Then I heard movement ahead, a slow, dragging sound. I called out again, my voice barely steady. No answer came, only silence, followed by a faint whispering sound I couldn't understand. My flashlight flickered once, twice, and in that brief darkness, I felt certain someone was standing directly behind me. I turned around instantly. Nothing, but the stairwell door slammed shut on its own. The sound echoed violently through the empty floor. That was enough for me. I ran back downstairs without looking back, grabbed my bag, and waited outside until sunrise. I quit the next morning. A week later, curiosity got the better of me, and I searched online for information about the building. I found an old news article from nearly 15 years earlier. A night janitor had disappeared during his shift. Last seen, working alone. The location listed in the report was the 4th floor. The case was never solved. Since then, I've worked many different jobs, but I never worked another night shift again. Even now, when buildings grow quiet late at night, I sometimes hear slow footsteps somewhere behind me. And every time I do, I remember that empty hallway and the feeling that someone was still walking there long after everyone else had gone home.